Hello, and welcome back to my video breakdown series of songs from my album. And today we're looking at Used to Be So Strong featuring the Arcturians. So, Used to Be So Strong is the second single off the album, and it's the second to last track on the album. And this song, as I mentioned in my breakdown for Halcyon, is a continuous mix between Halcyon and this song. And I ended my breakdown of Halcyon with kind of talking about the whole layering of two masters together and then cutting it for the final masters to get a continuous mix. So I'm going to start there and kind of go through what's going on this end of the projects, just to kind of give everyone the full context of all of that. So as I had it in Halcyon, there was a render of Used to Be So Strong at the end of that project, taking into account a BPM jump that I kind of had in there to like produce two as like a placeholder. And then I have the exact same thing in this project where I have a render of the ending of Halcyon put in here with just the elements from that project, so that when I'm producing up things on this end, I know they sound conjoined or put together. So listen to that render really quick here. So again, this is the end of Halcyon. And then, as I mentioned in the other video, the bass and the melodies are in that project. But then in Used to Be So Strong, I have the chords in this one. Yeah. But then also there's this guitar like trill thing that begins actually way back at the 1 bar line here. But again, that is just kind of slowly faded in at the beginning or at the end of Halcyon. And then that obviously just continues going into Used to Be So Strong. So, and then again, programmed in here is that BPM jump from 140 to 148. And then as you can feel, that transition point, it's seamless. There's no clicking or anything going on there because the sounds that you're hearing that continue on are part of the same channel out of whatever project they came from. And again, that's very intentional to avoid all those kinds of weird issues you could get if you try to butt up two masters against each other and call it a continuous mix, because I wanted it to be truly a continuous mix. So, and again, I will talk more about all that in a different video where I kind of show the master project and kind of all those overlaps and how that was all rendered out and stuff. So with that out of the way, Used to Be So Strong. So 140 BPM. We're also again in G sharp minor, and again we'll talk about the writing first, and then we'll kind of get into the production of things. And I will say though, this is probably like my sound to like a T. A lot of the things that I do in the drops are very similar to other things that I've done, and I felt like this was the song to really just lean completely into that kind of sound, because just like the vibe of the vocal and it being very dark and emotional, it just felt correct to just lean into that kind of a thing for this too. So the progression, there's some variations in it. And there's something interesting with the drop in terms of the progression is not really set up except for the build part. But even then, the drop progression is still different from the build progressions. And I remember for this song, the thing is when you have these kind of chord progressions that are doing a lot of this, like it's just triads really, leading to the next chord that's really obvious. And then as a pickup, that kind of a vibe where it's just like what you're going to hear next in a chord progression when you hear that. So with the drop, and this is getting a little ahead of myself, but I kind of took advantage of that and just kind of did the same triad like movement things, but the timing of it is a little different. And then at the end, as you can see of this bass line, I'm kind of just holding out that last chord essentially, while in comparison to like the chorus and stuff, it's like not so much that kind of a vibe, I would say. But anyway, so yeah, so the first progression is this that you just heard. And then when we get into the chorus here, there's some slight changes here, like playing this as more of like a seventh-y kind of thing. Sorry, that's C sharp. It's more like a second instead of that. It's here. Yeah. And then the build part. Yeah, this is where it gets a little bit, it's just the timing is different. And to me, these chords are like you're expecting to hear like a certain chord next anyway. So to me, like this is not sudden in any way, especially even though it's like a build part, but it felt correct for the song. And that's kind of why I did it. So, but yeah, and then, post the first drop, the chord progression repeats the same progression as the build. And the first drop is like it's essentially a 16 bar drop with a 8 bar like extension to it. But what I really like with this song was I was able to do a second extension, but it was actually it's actually 16 bars. But that writing is the writing of the chorus section. And to me, that usually would be a really weird choice to have like the second like post drop section be longer than the first one. But because your ear has already heard, this progression here, just like that, you've heard it and you've only heard it once. To me, that's why it felt natural to only have that obviously be 8 bars here. But then for the second drop, because that progression is longer and it's like it goes over 16 bars, it didn't feel weird to have the second one be twice the length of the first post drop section. And again, and I would say that is completely based because of the writing and because the writing kind of helps to set that up, because if you imagine like if I had this writing here and I was like, oh, I want the second one to be twice as long, then I just had that copy pasted. When your ear hits that repeat of it, that would feel really strange because you're expecting something to change there, not just hear the same thing over again. So I thought that was a pretty clean way to kind of be able to structure the song in this way. And I really like enjoyed that when I was working on this. So beyond that, as I mentioned, guitar trill stuff, there's some, piano chords going on. Let's see. And the chorus, I do this thing where I break out the low and high voices into its own channels because I typically want to manipulate, kind of fuck with the color and tonal shifts here. So if I remember correctly, these are a lot different. Yeah. So these higher notes here are kind of shifted more towards the bottom of the color knob, but then high on the tonal shift. And it's like you can also kind of do that with velocity stuff, but for this song, I just end up doing it with just different channels here. And then because this is like a very sad and serious kind of a track, cinematic sounds like strings obviously are in here. Yeah, this was Noel strings. It's probably one of the only Contact libraries that I ever just bought straight up. That and then Damashu being the other one that I just bought straight up. All the other ones I've gotten from like packs and stuff like that. But it's a really nice, like airy string library to pull from. You don't really want to get crazy with trying to, kind of add emotion to like, session strings 2 or whatever, And then that's layered here with just some saw stuff. Yeah. Let's see. So let's listen to this build section. Or I should just mention, yeah, I mean, the intro, there's some sonar stuff going on here. My pretty typical crap. Not crap, but typical thing that I like to do.
Many times do I have to fall? Many times do I have to crawl?
So.
I am so down with my mind attacking me in my sleep. When I wake, everywhere I go, I don't even know what's going on. I used to be so strong.
Stop it there for now. So, yeah, that section, this melody, I would say it's mostly just following the chords. So if I still all this together, okay, it's a little different there, and then there's that note. Yeah, so it really is just kind of adding some extra notes that you would hear in the voices of those chords, but still nice, and it still works as like that typical background melody thing that I like to do in songs. And then, yeah, also some more sonar kind of sounds here. It's like a higher kind of a sound. And this is part of the build part, but like, yeah, just more of the kind of the same thing going on there. And then kind of how I mentioned in Halcyon, I was using some like my Moog for some bass layers, and same thing here. And then one thing to mention here is that for this bass, it starts off straight and then it starts to pluck during the build. And I'm doing that with LFO and then just auto filter. And the reason for that is because when you try to, put, because you can set like your like a analog synth to like, do like a pluck like that. But when I try to do that in the past, I've always noticed that the pluck might not be exact every single time. And even though like filters on like Moogs are like really nice, it's just the fact that like it could be like it could stutter here and there, and then it wouldn't sound quite right. I just didn't want to deal with that, so I just used Ableton's filter to kind of do the same thing on this. And then this has a really 2-octave high overtone on here. And then again, this is also plucked with that Moog sound. Yeah. I will say, having like 2-octave high overtones can be really nice in certain tracks. Usually if you wanted like the standard bass overtone is like 1 octave up plus a seventh, but this one's like 2 octaves up plus a seventh. Really just depends, but to me it just adds a lot of nice harmonics, especially when you start, marrying that to like all your melodic sounds. Yeah. It's just like a nice, plucky kind of movement along with some atmospheric piano and string sounds on top of it. Just like perfect. So, and then beyond that, it has some eerie stuff coming in here. Yeah, that's just following the same melody essentially. But just with a more of like a sustained synth sound there. Yeah. And then I guess the build really it's the same kind of thing going on here. Same synths and stuff, basses, just the chord, the bass line just changes here. A little bit of an introduction of this drop sound you hear in the build, which I like that. Yeah, because that's kind of repeated during the the second half of the drop, but having that be as having that be part of the build, it just again it's just like a nice way to like foreshadow sounds essentially. So and then yeah, again a lot of these sounds are I've probably gone over these before. Yeah. Love my sonar sound, contact. This is noir. And yeah. Then I guess the one thing that I should mention here too is I did this like two-noter thing here. It's basically it's my Moog again, and then it's basically just playing straight fifths or sevenths. Well, seven semitones, or it's a fifth, but then it's just doing this like back and forth kind of a thing. So that kind of interesting. There's some like parts that it's a little kind of rubbing against each other, but I remember when I did this, it just felt right to have that extra, just kind of textury synth kind of going on there. Very subtle, but I like it. So, okay. And then, yeah, I mean, some stuff, riser stuff, whatever. I think I've gone over that enough. So, one thing I did want to bring up in this about the vocals. So, this is I'll also mention this too. When I announced that I was doing an album, that's when Allie reached out to me and she said, "Hey, if you need vocals for anything, just let me know. I'd love to work again on something." And so I had some ideas lying around. I sent her something, and then that I think over the course of 2-3 days, basically evolved into the final like foundation for Used to Be So Strong, which was really fast because that's iterating with someone over the internet on stuff, but she's just such a strong writer, and so much of what she did just clicked like immediately. The one contribution that I made for the vocal writing, though, which I'll show you here, is the build vocals. Because I think originally she had the, let's see, she had all this. And then she had some belted stuff, but I remember it not really working. And she kind of knew that too, but she was like, here, take these stems and let's just see like what you do with it. What I ended up doing was I created this. As you can hear on those B's, it's like really stretched out. And that was me taking that hook thing that she had going on, and I just started figuring out like what could sound really cool. And I remember, I think I had to like flatten it and stretch it out a couple times just so I could get the length that I needed. And then I also made a harmony for it. So then all together. And that sounds super fucked there, but basically I took her vocal and manipulated it to hell, and then I sent her back probably these 3 stems right here of the track, and then the leads and stuff, just so she could kind of mirror it, because it was my way of kind of helping her write that hook part in the builds. And I remember when I showed her it, and then she was like, "Oh my god, this is so sick," and then she like went off to the studio and just like tracked all that for me, which was really sick because like it was just really nice that we weren't struggling to come up with like how to structure the hook and the build and everything. It just kind of became pretty obvious once I did that. But that's the thing for producers, is it's like whenever you have a chance to help write things like that, it's really helpful because you kind of have their voice, you can take that and you can manipulate it into things and then kind of give them ideas, and it's just like a nice little feedback loop that you can go through with things. So, but yeah, that was a big thing to get this song like really over the finish line very quickly, was when she was able to once we kind of figured this section out here. So But otherwise, in the verses and stuff, she just nailed it off the bat. It fit the vibe perfectly and just felt great. So, okay, so that's really the breaks. Again, a lot of this just kind of, triad chord thing that kind of leads to the next chord that you're expecting with some variations to keep it interesting. And then getting into the drop, the beginning of that, the build progression is like used as the foundation, but the ending of it is just kind of changed up a little bit here. So if we just play it. A lot of variations going on there. And this drop, yeah, no saw pads. I know there's some people that give me shit for not doing like saw pad drops and, me just having just bass and lead. But again, this song was like, I just leaned into that vibe just completely because it just felt right for it. But what I do love though about this drop writing is, yes, the progression is just kind of baked into the lead and then the basses. It doesn't have a drop melody kind of like Halcyon that is just, sitting on top of the progression. But what I love is that there's a lot of voices that come in and out that help to kind of add that variation into this. So for example, so there's that sound, but then this sound. So this like filters in here, or I guess it gains into this, but then this is like kind of creating like a chord there on that second note that you see there, and then I kind of do that all the way through this drop where I have it kind of coming in and out. So here. Okay, that's playing in unison, but here. So that's like going up to this D sharp. And that would be like the repeat of the first half of the drop, but there's just that nice variation there. Versus empty. Yeah, and that kind of continues with the second half where, yeah, this main lead sound is it's basically just repeating except for this ending part here, but it's just adding more voices to this drop and, just adding that variation that to me really holds it all together. Yeah, and then this is like, I really love this because at the ending of this drop, there's this like ascending sound here. And this does create some dissonance in here. It's very like, ooh, to me, like I kind of get like shivers on that, but it's for the style of the song and the vibe of it, having that rubbing kind of sound to me really, really felt correct. And again, just a great way to just add variation to the song. And also I want to say the vocal there, yeah, you're not hearing like the hook like repeated there again, because the first time to the drop. Yeah, you hear that hook, and then I think this is the same. That's right. It's not the same. Yeah, so it's faster there. And I think a lot of that just has to do with just the placement of that hook against the all the production here. But going into the second half of this is another hook here. Yeah, that's right, because then she goes down here. I should play the lead at least. So yeah, even the vocal is varying kind of the melody that it's following, even it's repeating the same hook over and over again. But I love doing that kind of things in tracks where you have a hook, but then you play with the hook. I think the first song I did that on was Bury Me Alive with Neverways, because that hook, just Bury Me Alive, I think we had three main variations of it. One for like the chorus, one for before like the heavy drop, and then one for the melodic drop. And it just feels nice to have that kind of variation baked in, so you're not just copying and pasting the exact same hook over and over again, when you can, add a little bit more variation to a song by just having different takes of things. So yeah, and then as I mentioned before with writing, so after that drop, we get into this like post-drop thing. Another take of the vocal. And a little break there.
Here we go again, I hit rock bottom. Being swallowed by my problems. My past is haunting me still. Can't I just let it go?
Yeah. Very much a breakdown second verse, because the first verse had drums and stuff, but for this one it was just left completely empty. And then the builds are the same.
I am so done with my mind attacking me in my sleep and my way everywhere I go.
Yeah, so that's all the same. And then getting into the drop. So the second drop, it's in this song, it really is just copy pasted, but there is a landing here. Or actually, I lied. I forgot. It's slightly different because, yeah, with the first drop, there's another take in here. Kind of like when like the drop really does like pick up and hit, there's like another hook that plays right there. But that's a kind of a minor thing, but all the other writing is basically the same. But then actually that reminds me, I think the hook is... Yeah. Yeah, this is a... No, it's the same hook actually right there. But yeah, at least having that other take right there, kind of like when this drop actually starts, like, is just a nice way to vary things, especially when you are just copying and pasting your drops over. But again, some songs, that's really all you really want. So doesn't make sense to like, hit your head like on a table trying to figure out like a different drop, unless you're trying to do some like, heavy drop, melodic drop switch up, but not for this song. And that wasn't the vibe for the album. So yeah. And again, all the production with this is basically the same. That's some other stuff. Yeah. But then with that reverb bus on this, so when that all is together, I would say this bass is very much just like the Lightning in the Dark bass. Just the same kind of layering of sounds and stuff with that reverb bus off of a bass, kind of giving you the extra high end on this with some white noise. And then all these synth sounds here are all, I've kind of gone over them before too. Okay, so then getting into the drop, the post drop of this. Yeah. So that's, again, that writing is just recycled from the chorus section. But I think originally I tried repeating the chorus there, but for the song, it just didn't feel right because you hear the hook a lot in this. So I think I asked Ali to kind of just do some ad libs of some stuff, and then ultimately I just like chopped together like a comp of some like outro-y vocal vibes and just put that for the outro here. So, but yeah, so that's really, it used to be so strong. I think again, this song is basically just my sound, like the when I do like melodic stuff like this to like a T. So obviously a lot of the production is recycled from other songs, but that's okay because a lot of producers will recycle things from other tracks, and it's like, why bother reinventing the wheel every single time if you're kind of trying to achieve the same result? So as long as your songs are interesting and different from each other in terms of writing and what you're doing, then that's, I would say, is good. And then kind of how you produce it up is kind of up to you how much you want to expand and stuff like that. So, but yeah, that I would say is used to be so strong. Again, a lot of atmospheric stuff and background melodies and buzzy basses and drop leads. But probably, yeah, I was happy that this is the second single because I think it has a lot of power to the drop and just the vibe that it gives off. So yeah, I guess hope you enjoyed this video, and I will catch you all in the next one.